Usually when the students start preparing for the competitive exams like the civil service exam, and they come across and ask me basic, simple, straightforward and sweet questions like, sir, how to understand that which particular news piece is important, what is its relevance for the exam, how to understand more particularly when it is a political news. I do understand the confusion in the minds of the beginners. To help them understand that how you can very well imagine the relevance and then the extent to which you need to cover a particular news piece, in what all dimensions, in what all perspectives you should cover it up. Let me help you through a political news which is very significant these days. The news in question here is the allocation of the party symbol. On 17th of Feb, I hope you would have come across this idea, this news piece, that the Supreme Court, the Honorable Supreme Court itself said that the symbol of bow and arrow will now belong to the faction led by the sitting Chief Minister Mr. Eknath Shinde, though the name Shiv Sena was given to this party, the identity to this party was given by none other than but Bala Saheb Thackeray, and now his son, the former Chief Minister Mr. Uddhav Thackeray, has been denied that he cannot claim the party name or the party symbol. Now this entire thing, that who gets what and on what basis, what is the politics behind it, perhaps is not that important for a UPSC aspirant, but there are so many things that you should know in context of this particular news for be it your pre-exam or your mains and even your interview. So let's today understand that what all perspectives are to be covered and in what all ways you should know about this. So the thing in news is election symbol or the party name. Now the more important thing here is the symbol, right? So what is an election symbol? It is basically a standardized symbol allocated to a political party. Now the question that should come to your mind is, who allocates it to whom? Is there some rule under which it is done? Is there some particular agency who is doing it, and what yardsticks are kept in mind while doing it? So if we know what is an election symbol, then who gives it? So obviously yes, it is the Election Commission of India. Now under what rules the Election Commission of India allocates the symbols to the parties? So the Election Symbols Reservation and Allotment Order 1968 empowers the Election Commission to recognize political parties and allot symbols. So the question is, who allocates it? It is Election Commission. Under what rules? So the rules are Election Symbols Reservation and Allotment Orders 1968. Then next question that should come to mind is, why symbols? Why we need symbols? And like there are so many other countries where we see that there are no symbols, but in India we have such an important place for these election symbols in the electoral system. Now the reason behind it is very simple. At the time of independence, when we were thinking about holding the first general elections, right? So most of the people in India, those who were the eligible voters, they were illiterate. Obvious reason is the British rule and the way they had been exploiting India. But now the question is that because most of the people were illiterate, it was difficult for them to read the name of either the party or the candidate. So easier it would have been for them if they could relate with a particular symbol, as if they want to vote for, let's say, Congress, so there should be something like an open palm today, or if it is BJP, there should be something like lotus. Similarly, we have other parties and their symbols. So it was because of the illiteracy of the voters that we had to opt the idea of giving a particular symbol to a particular party. Now when a party gets a symbol, so we should know that what kind of parties are there, political parties. So we have registered and recognized political party and registered unrecognized political party. Now what is the difference between these two? So when we talk about registered and recognized party, what it means, registered parties shall either be a national party or a state party if it meets certain laid down conditions. Now the next question that obviously comes to mind, that what are the yardsticks, what are the conditions for a party to be recognized as a national party or a state party? Obviously yes, now we have to cover it as well. Before that, let's understand what we mean by registered unrecognized party. Parties that have never contested elections, there are parties registered but they have not yet contested the elections since being registered. Then parties that have only recently been registered, they are yet to start the electoral process because the new elections, the next elections are yet to happen. Then parties that have not received a sufficient percentage of votes in the assembly or general elections to qualify as state parties, or parties that have never contested elections. So these are registered but unrecognized parties. Now, how does Election Commission of India allocate party symbols? So based on how well they did in polls, like when the elections were held, be it the state party or the national party, ECI registered political parties for elections and recognizes them as either national, state or registered party. Fine. Then post registration, certain privileges are given to these parties like political broadcast time on TV or radio, access to electoral rolls determined by their recognition, and a symbol which is solely intended for the use of each party is given to each national party and state party respectively. That means election symbols are given to the parties which are registered and recognized either as national or state party. Only to the registered party these are not given at once. Now, what is the procedure to recognize a party as a national party? Obviously, the next question that should come to our mind. So here the things that we have to keep in our mind, these are: if a particular party secured 6% of valid votes polled in any 4 or more states. So 6% in 4 or more states at a general election, election to the Lok Sabha, general election to Lok Sabha or to the Legislative Assembly, and in addition it wins 4 seats in Lok Sabha from any state or states. So if you fulfill this criteria that you secure 6% of the valid votes polled in any 4 or more states at the general election to Lok Sabha or to the Legislative Assembly, and in addition you win 4 seats in Lok Sabha from any state or states, you get recognized as national party. Or if you win 2% of seats in Lok Sabha at the general election and these candidates are elected from 3 states, so 2% seats from 3 states, and there is yet another criteria: if it is recognized as a state party in 4 states. So on these 3 bases a party can be recognized as a national party. Now after you know the criteria for the national party, you need to know that how a party is recognized as a state party. So here we have 5 conditions or 5 yardsticks to recognize a party as a state party. So what are these yardsticks? 2 seats plus 6% vote share in the last assembly elections in that state. So 2 seats and 6% vote share, or 1 seat and 6% vote share in the last Lok Sabha election from that state. Then there is a criteria of 3% of the total assembly seats, or 3 seats at least, whichever is more. Then 1 of every 25 Lok Sabha seats, 1 of every 25 Lok Sabha seats or an equivalent fraction from a state, or 8% statewide vote share in either the last Lok Sabha or the last assembly polls. So on these basis a party can be recognized as a state party. Now when we know about the recognition of parties as national or state parties, then the question comes: what happens in case of a disputes of party symbol? Who has been authorized? What are the yardsticks here? So under para 15 of the order of 1968, to which we have already referred to, the Election Commission of India, after considering all the relevant material, facts and persons concerned to the matter, decides on the dispute. So the Election Commission has been empowered. The decision of the matter is binding. So it is a binding decision, binding in nature upon both the parties in question. It also says that Election Commission is the only authority. Simple. You cannot dispute the decisions of Election Commission to decide issues on a dispute or a merger. The Supreme Court upheld its validity in Sadiq Ali case, which was the 1971 case. So this case is also important because of the dispute regarding the symbol. Then applicable to both recognized national and state parties, not to the registered parties. And in case it is a registered party but it is yet unrecognized party, then the election commission usually advises what? It says that in such a case, what you can do, you can go to a court, right? Either try to solve it internally or you can go to the court of law, right? So this is the provision so far which is in existence. Primarily, the election commission ascertains the support enjoyed by a claimant within a political party, like how many members, how many candidates of that party are supporting a particular person or a particular faction in its organizational wing and its legislative wing. So there are two things, one is organizational wing, other is legislative wing. That means total membership of the party and the members who have been elected either to the Lok Sabha or to the Vidhan Sabha respectively. Then election commission may decide the dispute in favor of one faction holding the majority support. So obviously it will be a kind of a democratic decision by the election commission itself. Election commission may permit the other group to register itself as a separate political party. Then the process will start. Once recognized, then they will get their own name and symbol. In case of no majority, the election commission may freeze the party symbol and allow the group to register themselves with new names or add prefixes or suffixes to the party's existing names and do the remaining process. Before 1968, the conduct of election rules 1961 were used, right? The first case to be decided under the 1968 order was the first split in the Indian National Congress in 1969. So when this new thing happened, now we should know something about this first split in Congress itself, how it started, what all happened. So there were two groups that were emerging in Congress at that point of time. The Congress old guard, the original members, the old members led by K. Kamaraj, Neelam Sanjeeva Reddy and others, that they were known as the syndicate. They nominated Reddy for the post of president, right? Whereas Indira Gandhi encouraged Vice President V.V. Giri to contest as an independent and called for conscience vote in defiance of the whip issued by the party president. Now, you know one thing, you should also know something about the whip here. What is the relevance of whip? What is the importance of whip? How it was introduced? Though I cannot cover it today, but I am giving you a clear idea that how holistically a topic can be covered when something happens to be in current affairs, right? So when Indira Gandhi supported some other candidate against the party whip, now Indira Gandhi ji was expelled from the Congress, and the old Congress, which was called O, led by the old president, it retained the old symbol, the symbol of this bull. The new Congress J, led by Indira Gandhi, got a new symbol. Fine. As the process to decide on dispute may take time, the election commission may for immediate electoral purposes permit the groups to fight the elections in different names and on temporary symbols. Remember, though it may take time, but because if there is an election and the people should have the convenience, there is a provision of temporary symbols as well. Then what if the parties reunite? Now the question is, what if the parties reunite? In this case, the parties may approach election commission again and seek to be recognized as a unified party. Election commission is also empowered to recognize mergers of groups into one entity. It may restore the symbol and name of the original party. So everything is possible. How did election commission decide in Shiv Sena case? Like on what basis, on what grounds the decision was taken? So in the Sadiq Ali case 1972, Supreme Court laid down three tests for decision. Like on these three grounds, three bases you can decide. Number one, test of aims and objectives, test of constitution and test of majority. Of the three tests, only three was conclusive, that yes, Shinde faction, Mr. Shinde's faction had the support of the majority, and accordingly the decision was taken. So this is the story so far. In 2022, Mr. Shinde, then cabinet minister from Shiv Sena, defected from the party, taking along 40 Sena MLAs and 10 independents. Then Mr. Shinde won the floor test in the state assembly. A conflict emerged on the use of election symbol and the name of the party founded by Balasaheb Thackeray. Post Election Commission's decision on the symbol, Uddhav Thackeray sir challenged it in the Supreme Court, in which Supreme Court refused to put a stay on the decision of Election Commission, and the Supreme Court is yet to give its decision on disqualification matter in Shiv Sena case. Later in October, Election Commission froze the symbol of Shiv Sena. For the bypolls, both the parties were allotted different symbols with additions to the names. The matter taken to Supreme Court, both factions claimed to represent the real Shiv Sena, and Uddhav Thackera's faction challenged for a fresh election. Now the question is that when a defection happens, what exactly is the situation in Indian system? So what is anti-defection law in India? It punishes invalid MPs, MLAs for leaving one party for another, and it allows a group of MP, MLA to join another political party without inviting the penalty for defection. It does not penalize political parties for encouraging or accepting defecting legislators. So these are the three things here. Parliament added it to the constitution as the 10th schedule in 1985. The purpose was to bring stability to the governments by discouraging legislators from changing parties, right? Now what constitutes as defection? What exactly is defection? In case of nominated legislatures, they can join a political party within 6 months of being appointed to the house. When an MP, MLA who has been elected as an independent joins the party later, then it is defection. So we have all the cases here for defection. The presiding officer of the legislature, speaker, chairman, or whosoever it is in case of Rajya Sabha, Lok Sabha, Vidhan Sabha, are the deciding authorities in such cases. Supreme Court has held the legislators can challenge their decisions before the higher judiciary. Fine. So though the final authority is the presiding officer, but yes, the decision can be challenged in the court of law. It does not provide a time frame within which the presiding officer has to decide a defection case. In 2020, the court held that initially speaker should take a decision on defection petition within 3 months, but it is yet to be given a final shape. However, it allows the party to merge with or into another party provided that at least 2/3 of its legislators are in favor of merger. So there are mergers, there are splits. Now by preventing legislators from switching sides, the anti-defection law aims to maintain a stable government, right? So this is the aim behind it. Now if I look at various countries, what are the conditions, what are the provisions there? If I talk about Europe, termination of the membership of parliament in case of defection. Bangladesh, if a public representative votes against his party in the house or changes the party, he must resign from membership. If I talk about US, Canada and Australia, no limitation on administrators exchanging side. So that's kind of giving them a lot of option, lot of choice, lot of freedom. If I talk about UK, in parliament a party is allowed to traverse to opposite side without being dismayed by any exclusive law. Singapore, the members must also vacate seat. Parliament will decide the disqualification of such member. South Africa, if a member leaves his party, then his membership will automatically end. Kenya, if a member leaves his party, he must vacate his seat. Speaker will decide this and the member can appeal against it in the High Court. Why we have to cover all this? Because there is a comparison of Indian political system with other countries. So there are some of the suggestions. This is more important for your mains or even in your interview. So there are some of the important suggestions given. For example, the Election Commission has suggested it should be deciding authority in defection cases. Others have argued that the president and governors should hear defection petitions. The Supreme Court said Parliament should set up an independent tribunal headed by a retired judge of the higher judiciary to decide defection cases swiftly and impartially. I hope with this detailed discussion, you will now be able to imagine, understand the entire gamut of things that you should be knowing when you prepare for a particular news piece, be it even a political news piece. And if you like this idea, please give a comment and let me know if you would like me to make more videos on topics like this so that I can help you through and through in your journey to prepare for UPSC exam. Best of luck.